Good morning, sunshines. Hi there. Hi there. Blessed with another day. Are we right? Yes. Reporting in. I am here to share some prose that I wrote, and it's about validation. And what is validation? Got into this from this transformation, right? We're going through with my studies and in life. And to me, I'm seeing how validation doesn't necessarily have to come from other people, right? Being happy on this journey to be happy, and all this talk about the happiness is inside, you know? So this is where this is all coming from. So I wrote the prose, and then, kind of like the background came out of how I got to finish and complete this prose where my mind thought was. So I wanted to title this Self Realization and Validation, right? What's that they go hand in hand once you realize a lot of things. So a form of self realization is an ability to validate oneself, right? Not to look for it from another. And yes, our ego wants acknowledgement for how nice our hairstyle is and our contributions, our great ideas, and our sacrifices. However, the damage of the expectations for validation causes consequences of unnecessary inflammation in our body, from stress and trepidation and anxiety to our state of being, and has a potential program has the potential to program our hearts and our minds to judgment and hate due to the lack of the reception of validation that we expect from the outside. I was this, I was this. So let's begin with a definition of what validation is. Validation as a noun is where I'm going, and the act of giving validity and strengthening, uh, strengthening, enforcement or confirming, establishing or ratifying. The act of giving validity, the act of validating something. Okay, so validate examples were to establish the soundness, accuracy, or legitimacy of a thing, something. The synonym for it is confirm. Okay, so this is where I'm seeing validation moving from what I thought it meant to it actually being a confirmation of what's to come. The other example sentence that came with this was to declare it or make legally valid, to mark with an indication or official sanction. So, as we can see, the validation is necessary for life. Okay, we validate data to ensure compliance with laws and regulations, rules, standards, and social norms. And we validate the correct size and fit, right, of a wedding dress, of car parts, right, of hose conduit connectors, right. Everything has validating that it'll fit so that we make the right choice with it. So this is not a story about any necessity or lack. Okay, someone who asks, so everyone's clear that this isn't, nobody's wrong, nothing's wrong. This is an enlightenment piece, discussion. So someone who asks, going into that now, everyone's confident this isn't about you and nothing's wrong. And if we're what we were and are, that's what it is. So that's all. We can just use this new knowledge, right? To once we're not ignorant of something, it kind of seems easier to find when it happens and it occurs and stops the programming and the hurt. So someone who asks for emotional validation in the realm of appreciation, using it as a noun and using validation as a noun here, which is a feeling or expression of admiration, approval, or gratitude. But validation, or the lack thereof, nonetheless does not make them wrong, stupid, or unfit. Judging to no one, no group or individual, of their need of this emotional validation. Okay, as you will or may see, our validation of them is sort of like a magic or a gift, or it's a magical gift when we validate someone that isn't aware that the validation's on the inside. But it is also our gift as self-realized people to save ourselves from future despair, from the suffering, the agony, and despair at those times when we do not feel validated ourselves. To have the power to look inside, within, and see our validation all around us and be happy and joyous for it. Same as when we feel unloved from lack of satisfaction, outside validation, to not feel lacking anywhere we go or exist in life. Moreover, if you don't feel validated for something, there's more to look into there. I'm not going to share how, well, it doesn't occur to me to share in this place how you see and how you need and how you want and how you feel. But I would welcome you to go into meditation and ask those questions. God is love. And once we realize that we're not alone in life, unloved is no longer a burden to carry. We are all one, forever to treat another as your best friend and your brother. So with that said, now would be the time to mention that the use of this writing and philosophy sort of outlook on life applies to those who have the ability to realize that it is not necessary to look to others for emotional and self-worth validation. I went through that and the lack and what came from that, and without this need for it, I was able to set others free to be and not have to manage me through validation of me. I got to manage myself through my own validation. So many of whom that are spiritual and on a spiritual awakening and can come around to let go of this need to a degree to be validated in order to be seen. And there's still a demographic that's unaware of this egoic realm creating their self-worth or their contribution from validation of others. So not yet realized the role that it plays in our lives. And I see it as a program running, right? Like an epigenetic program where we're environment decided that, oh, you're a good girl, so this is your reward. So then it creates that if you don't get that validation, that maybe you're not this good girl that deserves that reward. When in actuality, we're all good and we all deserve the rewards because we all work towards whatever this is, right? So instead, stop waiting for people to give you your reward. Ignorant of the awareness, being ignorant of the awareness that exists within them and all of this freedom to see the beauty for what it is. Once you get it, it is so beautiful. So I've been through the ringers of life, right? We're all here together for this experience to understand how this can play out, right? So there's plenty of people to play with and to see it playing out in others and in yourself. Once you can see it in yourself, it's easier to see in other people. All right. So how the game of life plays out for everyone will start to show up different. And when you're looking at it from this realized view of what validation is, it's a tool, right? A tool of, for people that or that we can see can benefit from the validation, right? And then the world to you, the validator or who's aware of what validation is, sees the world very different. It doesn't look the same. So this story was me, right? And the validation I needed for everything. I grew up with a mindset that I was not good enough, right? And that permission was needed to do anything. And to get something wrong meant that I wasn't loved. Something I made up, right? That's not true. So to not do something and be wrong for it, that is another way, right? The consequences by former thoughts indicated being to me was I was moved to another foster family, or I had moved in with another family, or we didn't have a home, right? And it's a big burden for a being to carry that they're causing that matter when really it's just circumstances, right? So after 50 plus years, spiritual awakening has blessed me with new eyes, an opportunity to see everything around me, the world I have created, with a new perspective, introspecting on a path to see the truth, see the beauty, see the purity, see the wisdom and the knowledge, and see where that really shows up or it doesn't in that swirling reality. That is how I can see the beauty, right? How the beauty of this validation that I created all around me, and the value that I have been in society. So while I wasn't aware of how important validation was, I shared it. However, there may have been selfishness in the sharing, right? You don't deserve my validation. However, they did, and they were. And they may not have had it in themselves. And myself was the same way. So now I can validate myself. Doing the garden, just did the garden yesterday. I validated myself for what a great job I did, right? My partner, there was a little part that says, he better notice how nice this looks and how much work I put into it. However, my validation was how beautiful it looked when it was done, right? How I got to know that place in the house, the garden, and I got to know all the plants in there that stayed, right? And yeah, and put new stuff in there, and it was very beautiful. So my validation came from doing that. So this hard work that I thought at one time was not validated or appreciated, I was on the prove myself way of being that showed up always overachieving, right? Proving myself, right? Creating amazing businesses. I probably opened like over 20 businesses, right? For people. Worked with new customers, opening that new business development. And for 30 years of it, that's what I did is I validated, I created, I boosted everyone else's ego around them to be big. And here I may have forgotten at the time to create how big I was. So I needed this exterior emotional validation constantly. And if it was not recognized or perceived as appreciation, grudges, distaste, and exclusion, also not good enough. Depression, withdrawal from sharing my life with others, and lack of ideas for moving myself forward would follow. So my intuition dampened. Okay. So I was an operations manager for large entrepreneurial conglomerates, many of them. So that came also with opening all these businesses all the time. I created wondrous systems, operations, and happiness everywhere I went. Well, in my opinion, however, demanded and pouted my way to receiving validation for my efforts. I made others feel guilty for executing ideas that were either my own or against my wishes. Right? How did this happen? I was paid well, and what was created was tremendous and extravagant. I had CEO support, friends, financing all around me. And whatever I wanted was pretty much granted. But I still needed validation. As I see validation in this instance, within this writing piece that follows this, the validation is about emotional validation, this type. Our emotions are programmers of how we live our life. Our emotions are programmers of how we live our life. I had programmed myself to accept all those insecurities that I listed before as happiness, or before I could have happiness, okay? I didn't know it. Hidden blind spots I created as a child, surviving and coping in my game of life, cleaning out and getting into those dark areas of my soul, transforming into who I choose to be now intentionally. And now I see life much differently. I see humanity differently. I see possibility differently. That is the space in which this writing lives. Okay, so the prose piece I'm going to read now. It's called Validation is on the Inside by Tammy Bonnet. Self-realization is being aware of your contributions and how they look out in the world. How are we validated by what we create in another, others, those around us to whom we relate? Our beautiful hair, the presentation we created with another, that great idea that propelled them, and the sacrifice to raise our children. Let's consider a garden and a flower. We buy the seed and sprout it, dig the hole and plant it, give it food, water, and love. Where the focus goes, the energy flows. Focus is the bonus we put upon it. Keep it happy and protected and pray for the sun. Come back each day, some growing is done. Looking at it feeds it your love and energy. Fluff up the dirt, water the flower, and adore it some more. Prune the weeds that may be encroaching. The light shows that the fresh energy and growth are approaching. The sun shines bright and the flower stands up high. Then there is a day when the bloom presents itself to you and the world. The petals open wide and you can see the fresh, new, vulnerable inside. You stand there before it, all swollen with pride. Let us consider how the flower can't self-realize, for it's just a flower that feels you preside. From this, it emanates its beauty back to you, through your big love for it and your smile inside. Seeing that bloom on that flower is your gift for all you do. Now the perspective from the self-realized side, your time and attention, energy and love that you gave so unselfishly, not exactly knowing what the reward would be. It will not generate vocal validation from this flower you see. For the validation is the satisfaction and the joy of the beauty and the new life before thee. Like the flower, we validate ourselves by empowering each other. The beauty and strength of the flower validate your contribution. In life, validation plays out and flowers all around you. Through those seeds we sacrifice germinate love and water. Your hairstylist blooms with your smile of attraction. The people you meet adore you with infatuation. Your contributions, shopping, cleaning, mowing the lawn, all validate you with the happy, fed souls, a clean, safe place to reside. And passers-by looking at your place walk their pup gracefully along with a smile on their face. Your great ideas validate you through others expressing multiple points of view, generating ideas and possibilities in places anew. Your sacrifices to kids or animal kind validate you with love, fun, adventure, satisfaction, and pride. See, validation lives inside us when we see in 360 degrees our lives, up, down, all around you and me. We feel much better when we don't expect it from the outside. The joy that gets expressed on the inside is God's greatest gift to all of us, you see. That is how validation looks to me. Thank you. I'm hoping you enjoyed it. And just know you have your own power inside. You're strong. You're happy. You're free. Free to be. Free to be happy with yourself, no matter what anyone says. Even mistakes can bring gladness, because one mistake creates the next step on the ladder to that success of what the failure was at. You're not the failure. Your just attempt was the failure. So keep going, keep trying, keep aspiring, keep meditating, keep breathing, focused breath, Yogic breath. Love your humans. That's God's greatest gift. Thank you. Namaste.